thing you have to remember for the awareness level, basically, for the awareness level, all we have to do is make sure we know how to notify 911 that we have an emergency. We need to report the incident. I'll request emergency assistance. If you have a fixed facility responder, most of the time they have their own internal procedures to follow. Quickly calling for help, securing the area, that's what can save lives. If you think it's criminal or terrorist activity, then we have to make sure that law enforcement's there immediately. There you go. Do we usually have to call law enforcement? Usually we have law enforcement on scene before we ever get paged, so usually they're already there. Look at your department's SOGs, SOPs, what kind of communications, whether we call it by radio, cell phone, hand signals, other methods. Personnel and responders must be trained to use communication equipment assigned to them. Watch your policies, procedures, so you do it right. Alright, and then the next part here is our ERG. We're going to scoot through this kind of quick because we already talked about some of this, but I want to make sure I didn't forget something. The ERG allows for you to help protect yourself and others during the initial response. This is done by avoiding and minimizing the hazards. It's designed to use at hazmat incidents, basically on the highway and the railroads.
So I'm gonna ask this because I don't know. Do they have boats out here that take gas to other boats or anything like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So that could be a possibility for you guys on a hazmat deal with the lake?
Could be, yep. A spill.
I don't know, they have one up on Spirit?
There's one that's mobile, goes to.
Goes to different
There's not
lakes.
very many places where you can even stop to get gas up there anymore, is there?
No, there's none.
There's none.
Yep. But he's got a route that he goes on that pulls up to the dock and fuels the boat if you're on his route. And then there's pumps too. You know, you can have a drive away or a line break or something like that too.
Yeah, this is that information in your ERGs. It's going to have your 4-digit number. That's going to be in your yellow borders. Reference names, alphabetized. That's going to be in your blue. Once you look up your identify the material, then you can use your it'll give you the reference guide for 3 digits. That's in your table of placards and initial response guide. That's in the front of the ERG. Your reference containers, that's what's going to be, you'll see that pictured in the front. The exact spelling of the chemical name, that's important when you're using the ERG, because there's a lot of them that look the same, so make sure you get the right one. That's where the 4-digit number is better. You like that too, huh? Remember in the white pages, there's reference to, so we can, it's got the rail cars, it's got the semi-trailers, your container shapes, you can find all that stuff in the white pages. On that white page, you can, that provides information for shipping documents, how to use the guidebook, local emergency telephone numbers, safety precautions, notification requests for technical information, hazardous class. Also shows you the table of markings, labels, and placards. Table of markings, labels, placards, initial response guide, rail card identifications, road trailer identification, your GHS, your global harmonized system, pipeline transportation, tells you how to use the ERG, what protective clothing you need, fire spill control, levee precautions. Your yellow boarded pages, that's got your 4-digit number. And then right beside that is your 3-digit for your guide. Green highlighted in the yellow bordered section indicates substance releases gas that are toxic. Here's one that I forgot. If you find a guide that has P following the guide number, I don't know if I find them right away or not.
On page 24, 1143.
Yes, there's a good example, thank you. See where it's got the guide number 131, and then it has a P behind it? Okay, what that P means, it polymerizes.
24,
30,
29 in 2008.
30 in 2008, yeah.
Okay, so polymerizes. Polymerization is a violent reaction that releases great amounts of heat and energy. So that's something you're going to want to know. Talked about that. Yeah, we kind of hit all this when we went through that. Okay, we talked about in that guide section whether it's health hazard or whether it's a fire explosion, whichever one's listed first is the higher priority. Some of the warnings you're going to find, toxic, highly flammable, corrosive. The public safety section, that's going to give general information, immediate isolation of the incident site, protective clothing, respiratory protection that you need. It's going to list suggestion evacuation distances for large and small spills, and we talked about what those were. Evacuate people from the initial isolation zone. We want to make sure they're outside the safe distance then secure the scene and deny entry. Okay, we can't have people walking around in there. If we send a hazmat team in, where do they come out?
Same way they went in.
Same way they came in, so we can keep track of them. So we can get them through decon. There's a protective clothing section in there, it tells what we can use, whether we can use street clothing, uniforms, work uniforms, structural firefighter protective clothing, positive pressure, self-contained breathing apparatus, or if we have to be in a chemical protection suit. We talked about this, if it's in the green highlighted, in the yellow or the blue, that is, we can go back there and find out the evacuation distances. Awareness level personnel will probably not be involved. Yeah, we talked about that, we talked about that. Awareness level responders need to be aware of information in this section, but you may not be able, you may not be qualified to mitigate the incident. Okay, there's only certain things we can do as awareness. Okay, there's a few more we can do when we get to operations. The fire section, that's just recommendations for using certain extinguishing agents, large fires, small fires. The recommendations vary by the guide number. Leaks or spills. Okay, remember this one, before you attempt to conduct ERG recommended actions, you must be properly trained. Make sure you have the right equipment. Here's your first aid section. It's going to provide basic steps to help victims. Going to have common recommendations: moving the victim to fresh air, flushing contaminated skin or eyes, avoid direct contact, because if you get into this stuff, you are contaminated.
Isn't it you're contaminated until you go through decon?
That's right.
You get into the hot zone.
Yep. Victims at hazmat incident may present serious hazards to rescuers because they may be contaminated with the hazardous material. Only first responders with appropriate training, wearing appropriate personal protective clothing, equipment, should touch or handle victims. Okay? Talking about the green bordered sections again. It's going to have your initial isolation protection area, what distances they are. You're going to be able to find these with the UN numbers, 4-digit numbers. gonna give you initial isolation distance, protective action distances. Materials highlighted are gonna come from either the numbers that are in the yellow bordered section or the alphabetized ones in the blue bordered section. Small spill, approximately 55 gallons. Large spills, more than. We talked about daytime and nighttime. The temperature. Cooler, calmer conditions at night. Highly toxic concentrations may exist in smaller areas. If you look at table 1, the distances will always be at least 100 feet. Okay? That's the closest you can get to some of this stuff is 100 feet. And remember, people in the way, they need to be evacuated. Sometimes we can shelter in place. If the hazardous materials are on fire or have been leaking for longer than 30 minutes, the ERG table does not apply. So that would be the green section, does not apply. It's been leaking for more than 30 minutes.
Is that sometimes something that you just assume coming on scene could very well be the case?
Sometimes you have to estimate that because not always do you know when it actually happened. It's like the fire the other day. We have no idea how long it was burning before they paged us for Polaris. All we know is 30-foot ceiling, the smoke is on the floor. So that's something you just gotta try to estimate how long it's been leaking. Okay? Or burning.
Sure.
Okay? If we go to this other table, this just tells you some of the ammonia, chlorine, hydrogen chloride, refrigerated, oh, the other one's a refrigerated liquid. We can look up some of those and you can see different, different guides for them. You guys wanna look those up quick? We'll go ahead and look up chlorine. So if you're gonna look it up alphabetically, what do?
Go to the blue.
Go blue. You're gonna look it up by 4-digit?
Yellow.
Yellow. So if we have chlorine, if we have a small spill, how far do we evacuate in the first isolation?
60 meters.
60 meters, 200 feet. How far first isolation if it's a large spill?
2,000 feet.
1,500 feet.
Really?
How do you like that? 4.9 miles if it's at night and it's a large spill.
It must have changed.
Yeah,
Yours,
this is
2,000 feet.
This is a
Mine
2000.
says 2000.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So it's
2012.
changed
So they've
since
changed it.
2008.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have new ones, but they cost money. But it gives you the general idea, at least you're knowing where to look,
It
okay?
says this document is distributed free of charge to public safety organizations and may not be sold.
Right, well, you can buy them, but they cost. The emergency manager will give you enough for each vehicle that the fire department owns.
So these are always old, put the new ones in the truck and put the old ones in the
Yep.
classroom.
That's what we do.
So these are just the old ones.
Yep. I got some at home, I should have brought it, are the loose leaf, they're a little easier to use, cause when you open them up, they stay open. So, okay, so if it's been leaking for more than 30 minutes, or if it's on fire, what do we do?
Unlike that.
What a guy, 124.
Guide 124.
Well, if it's leaking, fully encapsulating.
So what's it say about structural firefighter gear?
Not effective if you're in direct contact.
Yep.
You need fully encapsulating vapor protective clothing. If there's not a fire.
First aid,
Call 911.
Fresh air. No mouth to mouth.
Keep victim warm and quiet.
Well, I just treat for shock.
okay? So let's look up ammonia.
Just type. They're both the same thing.
Large spill, initial,
500 feet.
500 feet. Okay, now it's been leaking for 30 minutes or it's on fire.
God, I forgot which one here it is.
So what's the first thing? Health or fire?
Health.
Health.
Stay away.
Protect your clothing.
SCBA.
Manufacturer recommended clothing.
Firefighter protective clothing is only limited. Not effective.
Okay, so you're kind of getting a general idea how to use the book. Okay, this is the whole key. But you know, after like 30 minutes, this is no good anymore. You know, an hour or whatever it is, so.
The app is pretty cool because it's got a wind direction speed on it, and it'll set your map up for downwind evacuation. It'll show you the areas that you have to evacuate.
What app is that?
The
It's
ERG app,
ERG.
Oh,
it's a free app. It works exactly like the book. It's pretty neat.
You can search by the name.
Shape of the
UN.
container, or the UN number, or the name.
Yep.
Yeah, that's quite helpful to get on that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the 2016.
It is 2016.
So I'm assuming they update those every 4 years?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I think it is every 4.
So we'll get new books next year.
Should be. And like I say, our emergency manager comes around and gives us enough for each vehicle, so there's one in each vehicle. So. You know, I told you we had propane cylinders floating up at Templar Park when Big Spirit flooded out. We just had hazmat class to look up the chemicals. I had 3 trucks drive in there and not one of them looked up with propane, which way we should be. I just shook my head. Come on, guys.
Felt like they knew it.
Pay attention. Alright, so protective actions we can do as awareness. It's isolation, we can make sure that we cordon off the area, we don't let anybody in. If it's inside a building, we can post at the entrance. Excuse me, I should have had this shut off.
Who's your business phone?
My chief's fault.
Your chief phone.
The wife.
Oh, here we go. Yes, it is. Yes, dear. I'm in class.
That's crazy, Mac.
It's nice. You can even point your phone into the wind.
You all right?
What? Point your phone.
Yeah, so you go nap.
If I need to come get you to the doctor, I will.
I'm gonna fill out here and do it.
All right.
So do your locations, just correct.
Okay. Bye.
One direction.
Oh, that's good.
Manually do it or
I'm sicker than a dog.
Oh, cool.
no, but
Sorry about that. Okay, where were we? If it's outside, we can set up perimeters. We can keep people out. That's the idea, is to keep people out. Well, what do you think would be the worst thing to secure to keep people out? What would be the one place that you guys could think would be really tough to keep people out?
Like around here?
Yeah, around any town.
Their
Oh.
phone.
Something a little bit more than that.
The road.
What if you had something happen at the school,
Oh, true.
and you gotta keep kids in the school? Who's gonna show up as soon as they hear it?
mom and dad.
Mom and dad, are you gonna be able to keep them out? You're gonna be fighting like crazy to keep them out. Okay? So that's just some of the things we need to remember.
Is that for the entire north? Or does Hazmat
We can put barrier tape up,
64 hours?
ropes, cone, barrier tape, we can use that. We call it magic tape. This is fire line, nobody ever crosses it. You'd be surprised how much that keeps them out. Okay? We can shut down roads. Okay? We can evacuate, shelter in place, or we can do some defending in place. Terrorist incident, we want to make sure that we protect ourselves and others by isolating the incident. We don't want anybody else in there because we don't know what's there. Notify law enforcement, but like I said, most of the time law enforcement's gonna be there before we get there. We gotta remember too that terrorists are gonna, terrorists and criminals may deliberately target first responders. They're gonna know exactly, we train how to do some of this stuff. They're gonna know where we go, and so they're gonna set a second device where we go to stage. So we have to be careful of that. We gotta watch what we do. Avoid contacting contaminants. Remember, weapons of mass destruction are deadly, and it doesn't take very much. Okay?
Do we have that equipment? Shoot the gas inside the locked door.
Watch out for secondary devices, and also they like the booby trap stuff. You'll find the booby traps and stuff at drug labs. First responders can protect themselves. by watching out for these devices. Biological agents may not cause symptoms for several days. As awareness, you're likely to be on or near the scene. Just remember, if you're there, you're going to be a witness. Law enforcement will want to know what you saw when you got there. And we do that at fires too. We want to know what was burning, where it was burning, what it looked like, all that stuff if we come up and we have to go back in and investigate and find out where it started. So we want to know the first people on there, what they seen. Document it. Make sure you write down what you see, what you did. Take pictures if you can. Pictures go a long ways. You just have to watch out because sometimes, depends on who's taking their pictures. We do have a picture clause in our SOGs because we don't want some pictures going out. We don't need pictures of victims and stuff like that on Facebook. So we have a picture policy. Make notes of the victims, what they seen, what they did. Protect the evidence. Okay. I'm trying to remember. Over in Japan, what gas did they use to kill the people in the subway? You guys remember? Was that terrorist act? It was ricin. That comes from a certain bean. Right now I have a pound of those locked up in my file cabinet because we took them from a lady. It's from the castor bean. She thought they were pretty flowers and she was going to plant them by her driveway a block from the school. She calls me up and says, I got these flowers, and she just bought the seeds, but it says poison on them. So I went down and took them, and I had to talk to the fire marshal to see what to do with them. So that's things that you don't even think about in a small little town, but she didn't buy them as a terrorist, but somebody could have.
How'd she even get her hands on them?
From a flower place, a seed company.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but there was 4 bags of them, a pound of them. She liked the flowers, so she ordered them, not even knowing what they were.
I mean, the flowers probably aren't toxic, are they?
I don't know, they make the beans, so I don't know, and I wasn't gonna take any chance, and she didn't want them around, so I still got them in my file cabinet, I gotta get rid of them.
So how do you get rid of them?
You want me to tell you what the fire marshal told me? He called the crime lab in Des Moines. They told him to tell me to put them in a black plastic bag and put them in the dumpster. So, I guess as long as you don't eat the seed, I guess you're okay, but I don't know, I wasn't gonna take any chances, and neither was she, so. Alright, we're gonna change gears here. Everybody kinda understand the ERG now?